Hello, hello, hello. Just wanted to talk to you about the tragedy in the Dominican Republic at the Jet Set. It seems like to a lot of people, um, the building was 50 years old, and it had tremendous weight, air conditions, generators, even a transponder on the roof. That was a lot of weight on the cement roof. Seems like they had a couple of leaks and they added some foam to the cement roof, techo in Espanol. But it seems like there was some leaks and they tried to fill it up. Plus, so there was a lot of weight on top of the roof, and it seems like they had a fire in 2023, 2 years ago, that probably damaged some of the wall. There probably was a lot of heat in there and probably did a little bit of stress on the wall. Plus, you had on the inside of the club that was beautiful, looking beautiful from the inside. You had giant speakers, you had giant lights, you had televisions hanging off of the wall. So you have tremendous weight on top of the roof, and you also have weight under the roof. You have lights, you have speakers, you have these gondolas, and all of this weight is you have weight on top of the roof on the outside. Then you have weight on the inside, and it seems like you probably had some leaks in the roof, which you try to repair. But once you get water in a cement roof, you have steel rods, and when those steel rods get wet, they can start to rust very quickly, and this will cause a lot of problems. So it seems like you had a weight on the top, on the roof, and you also had water tanks on the roof. If you know anything about the Caribbean, stuff like that, you'll see a lot of houses and apartments that have these big water tanks. And water is heavy on the roof. So you had the lights, you had the riggings, because you were doing live shows. So you have all these lights, all these riggings on the inside. You have speakers, you have decorations, lights, and looked like they had some beautiful lights coming down from the roof. And the owner is ultimately responsible because it's his building, and he's probably a third of the other problem. Then the other problem, the people who worked on the building, the contractors, the people who did the air conditioning and the stuff, putting all this weight on top of the roof, and then people on the inside putting the lights and the riggings. And it was a 50-year-old building, and if you watch the videos, you see there was people. It started to break. It started to crumble. There were things starting to come down from the roof, and you also have that music, that sound, that vibration, that bass, that the Caribbean. You have people dancing. So all of this weight, it almost became a perfect situation. You have all this weight. You had the fire, electrical fire in the building in 2003, which was probably just, they repaired it, and they probably didn't understand that the stress that was put on the roof from the heat that weakened it a year ago, and then just, you say the perfect situation with all of this weight, with the roof being weak from the fire, the sounds, and this became a horrible tragedy. And a lot of people died. About 200 right now. It says about 221 people have died, and probably over 100 people injured. The club was a big, giant club. It was one of the most popular clubs in the Dominican Republic, in San Domingo. It was probably about, I think, capacity of 800 people, and I think it probably was like 600 to 700 people in there that night. So it was, it was full of people, and a lot of people died, and a lot of people got hurt. and it's a tragedy, and it's just something that goes on, and that you have to watch. When you're traveling, you have to look for certain things. This shouldn't have happened, but it did. It can happen, and you don't think about that until now. That this is a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight on the inside and the outside, and that was a 50-year-old structure. So that building was made, I think it was built in 1975 or 74, and it was built to be a theater. And things just keep adding and adding and adding onto the roof, and heavier structures on the roof, and sad to happen, but probably a lot of people probably need to inspect some of these roofs and stuff like that. That's why things are different places. You are allowed to do different things in other countries that you're not probably allowed to do here in America and other countries, because, and then they have, fire department and engineers, and, try to keep things under control. But sad for it to happen, but it's very obvious what happened. Tremendous weight on the outside, tremendous weight on the inside. And there are videos of people seeing things starting to fall. Right before the collapse, you see people in the back sweeping the floor. You see people moving out, talking about there's dust coming down from the ceiling. So those were the little cracks were coming from the ceiling. The ceiling was starting to crumble. And you see somebody saying, things are falling. And 10 seconds later, the whole roof falls in. So when you see these things, you feel a way, you see something, how you act. It wasn't really, by the time the things started to fall, there was only like seconds to move. So it wasn't like, things started to fall. But there's probably had been little things going on before that, but they probably wasn't noticed. And then, like I say, the tremendous weight. Once that little cracking started, probably a couple of days before, it just, the tremendous weight. That's why a lot of people just got killed instantly. When those air-conditioned units and all that weight came down on top of people, and that's why you still have people right now that haven't been identified, because there's not much of the people left because of the tremendous weight that came down on top of them. And you hear people talking about rocks and stones, and they couldn't get it off of their bodies. And you have people who lost limbs and arms because it's just tons of weight came down on top of them from the roof and from everything that was on the roof. But just by understanding a little bit of Spanish, hearing a little bit of what they're saying, understanding what people are saying in Spanish, you get a little different thing. But it's an awful thing to happen. But I just wanted to say a little something about, for my travelers who love to travel, but be safe out there. Things happen, and I just hope that everybody, the people that got hurt, hope they can get better. The people that died, I hope, we all are, praying for them, and we want, everybody just be safe out there and enjoy your life, because you only have one life to live, and things can happen. And we'll talk to you later on Toon Runs. Peace.
Como ya le dije, espeluznantes. Vamos a la siguiente imagen del mismo cuadro, pero desde otro ángulo. Ven ustedes la nitidez, diferente a otra foto que yo tenía, que no tenía los niveles de resolución, y por eso quise subir nueva vez este comentario. Vámonos con los tinacos. Ahí están, señores. Tinaco 1, 2 y 3. Y si le muestro la primera imagen, ustedes pueden observar ahí cómo hay uno de los tinacos que se ve desde la carretera prácticamente.